is certainly unsustained by evidence. In general, you got to follow the most, the highest, or the most prevalent data, and the most prevalent data is that pyramids don't have bodies in it. All Egyptian kings were not found in pyramids. Mummies were not found in pyramids. They were found in the Valley of the King, not anywhere close to the pyramids, in underground facilities. And and so the idea that pyramids were built as tombs is really unsustained, and it's a result of archaeologists' theories that are not necessarily based on the reality of them. Certainly in the case of the pyramids of Giza, no mummies were found there, and almost no writing whatsoever and that would indicate that kings were actually buried there.
I'd like to see what Zahi Hawass would say about that. But anyway, this same person who sent the question, he or she says, also, I'd like to know what Nassim has found that he isn't telling us. A curious person like me.
Well, that might take a whole bunch of shows. My talks are typically 13-hour long. I've been giving what I call emissary programs, where I talk for almost 10 hours a day for 10 days in a row, and I still don't get to the end of the information. So, there's many things that I'm not talking about, but that I just don't have time to talk about in most of my public talks. But in general, I think what the comments is referring to is the possibility for humanity in terms of our advancements in technology and advancements in consciousness. And I think that the theory I'm writing is going to bring that forward, and it's going to be very, very powerful. And it's very important that people understand that, it's crucial to understand the theoretical part, because it is crucial for people to understand how it applies to their life, everyday life, how it applies to how they're made. If every one of the atoms, which is billions of atoms, is a little mini black hole, and that the protons that makes it are spinning at near the speed of light. When a great master tells them, you are light, they might be meaning that literally. And to figure out that, those principles and to start to experience them in your life individually, to actually take the time every day to experience your infinite nature, maybe one of the most important things that a human being can do at this time in history.
Just a few questions left, Nassim. This person also says and wants to relay this message. Quote, I also wish to pass on to Nassim, his lectures not only made my brain expand and open even more, he has inspired me, as well as many others, I'm sure, to continue to openly discuss consciousness awakening in a more mainstream audience. That, as I'm sure he knows, can be a little distracted in their lives by all things stupid, i.e. TV. I call that the subliminal tube. So thank you. Now, this other person says, have you discovered what consciousness is?
Yeah, as I described earlier, it seems that consciousness, in the model that I'm bringing forward, would be the feedback between the electromagnetic field and the gravitational field. Basically, you can think of it as during the day you expend energy and gather information. As you gather information, it's going inside your eyes, it's going through your senses, your nervous system and all this, and it's being fed back to the vacuum by every atom of your body. When the electron and the positron exchange, and when this happens, you're basically flickering in and out of the vacuum. Every single atom that you're made of is flickering in and out of the vacuum. but it's happening so fast you don't realize it. Just like a movie has frames with spaces in between. You don't see the spaces because it's moving fast enough from one frame to the other that you see just a continuous motion. You're actually constantly informing the vacuum, and as you inform the vacuum, as you're flicking in and out of reality, out of the material world, the vacuum feeds you back the experience of the information you sent it. Because the vacuum is managing all the other things, it has to have a consensus reality. And so when it feeds you back the experience, it feeds it back a little different than what you had, intended, because it's modified by all the other sets of information. And so then you interpret it and you experience it and you feed it back to the vacuum and so on. And I think that's what's consciousness. Consciousness is the universe learning about itself through the feedback of the electromagnetic field and the gravitational field. And that's what's producing consciousness, because consciousness is a feedback. Self-awareness demands feedback. Self-awareness means that you know you're you, and that is a feedback loop.
Two-pronged question. Are there other dimensions that we can interact with? And some people think that spirits, angels, etc., are all in our mind and are not real. What are your thoughts?
Well, then again, I would say that all these things, like the spiritual people, are experiencing aspects of the vacuum. They're experiencing aspects of the information that's in the vacuum, and we call it the spirit world, and we call it angels, and we call it all sorts of things in many various dogmatic contexts. But actually, these people are actually experiencing a level of the dynamics of creation that has to do with the information present in the vacuum, which most people don't experience, but that most people could if they were to become aware of it.
And this is the last question. This is from another listener. I watched a 2-part Google video of Nassim lecturing before the Rogue Valley Metaphysical Library in 2003. In part 1, he exclaims, quote, "Quantum physics is bunk." He goes on to talk about Newton's law of entropy and a conceptual problem regarding electrons, and that quantum physics created the strong force but did not explain where it came from. Are quantum mechanics valid, and is anything about quantum physics valid?
Yeah, there is things about quantum physics that are valid, but some of the foundation of quantum physics. First of all, people must understand quantum physics was kind of pulled out right out of the ether, if you'd like. The axioms of quantum physics don't stand on anything mechanical or semi-mechanical or anything. It's just thrown in, and that's why Einstein thought it wasn't very accurate, that he thought it was very appropriate. He thought there must be some more fundamental mechanical function that produced these effects. And so, my theory kind of removes some of the foundation axiom of quantum theory that are just hanging in space and put them in their appropriate function in a mechanical way. For instance, I show that the strong force is actually the gravitational force of two black hole proton interacting with each other. So that makes it mechanical, makes it much more Einsteinian. But when I say mechanical, that doesn't mean it's linear. It means that it has as well nonlinear functions. And, I can start to explain, if every atom is a mini black hole, how come, there's entanglement, might be because there's wormholes in the structure of the vacuum and so on. And all this stuff kind of start to take a different